Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a really fascinating one today.
We really do.
We are looking at a transcript of a speech, but it's not, a political manifesto or some CEO's exit interview.
Well,
It is essentially a farewell address. But the context is heavy. And I don't mean heavy as in just sad, though there is that, but heavy as in dense.
heavy is definitely the right word. We're looking at the source material titled The Most Beautiful Message from Jesus,
Right.
and it covers the final, extended conversation Jesus has with his closest circle, the disciples, literally right before his arrest and execution.
So the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't a casual chat.
The highest stakes imaginable.
Right.
Structurally, this is traditionally known as the farewell discourse.
Yeah.
And, regardless of where you stand religiously, if you look at this purely as a piece of rhetoric,
Hesitant.
as a text, it is a masterclass in emotional management.
Right.
It's a moment of departure. The speaker knows he is going away. He knows the listeners are confused and afraid, and he has to pack everything, comfort, commands, warnings, and promises, into one continuous flow.
That's what struck me reading through it. You expect a farewell to be sad, maybe a little nostalgic, but this text is all over the place.
It really
The
is.
1 minute he's telling them not to worry, the next he's giving them orders, and then wham, he's talking about branches being thrown into a fire and then calling them his best friends. It's a roller coaster.
It creates a very specific tension. So our mission today is to unpack the specific claims made in this speech. We aren't here to preach, but we want to understand the internal logic of the text itself.
Yes.
We're going to look at how he defines identity, this radical and incredibly demanding definition of love, and the very strange future he predicts for the people listening.
And just to set the ground rules for our deep dive, we are treating this as a text. We are analyzing the internal logic, the arguments presented, the metaphors used, just as they appear in the source.
Exactly. We're here to understand what the text is actually asserting.
Okay, let's jump right in. The speech opens with a line that I think a lot of people recognize, even if they aren't religious. He starts with, "Do not let your hearts be troubled."
Which is the classic calm before the storm opening.
But honestly, if my leader sits me down and says, "Don't panic," my immediate reaction is to start panicking.
Right.
Like, why are you telling me to stay calm? What do you know that I don't?
Exactly, because the instruction implies there is a very good reason to be troubled.
Yeah.
But notice the logic he uses to ground that comfort. He says, you believe in God, believe also in me.
He immediately creates a parallel.
He's equating trust in the divine with trust in himself. And then he gives them a destination. He says he is going to his father's house, and crucially, that there are many rooms there.
I loved that image. It's not just, "I'm going away," it's, "I'm going to prep the guest room."
Yes.
He says, "I am going there to prepare a place for you." And the promise is that he's coming back to get them.
That's the key. The departure isn't a permanent separation in the text. It's a logistical move. He says, I will come back and take you to be with me that you also may be where I am.
So proximity to him is the ultimate goal.
It's all about presence.
Yeah.
But then we hit our first snag. He tells them, you know the way to the place where I am going, and the disciples are just blank.
Oh, totally. They are completely lost. This is where Thomas jumps in. And I love Thomas here because he's saying what everyone else is probably thinking.
The practical one.
He interrupts and says, "Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way?" It's such a practical question. Like, can we get a map?
And that practical question elicits one of the most famous and most exclusive claims in the entire text.
It really is.
He doesn't give him directions. He gives him an identity. He says, I am the way and the truth and the life.
And then the big one.
No one comes to the Father except through me.
Let's unpack that. Because he didn't say, "I know the way," or "I can show you the way."
Right.
He says, "I am the way."
Precisely. It shifts the focus from a methodology, do this, go there, to a person, to a relationship.
Yeah.
The text is asserting that access to the Father isn't found through a ritual or a map, but through him.
And the exclusivity is just, it's so stark. No one comes to the Father except through me.
There isn't a back door or a side entrance in this logic.
And just when you think they've digested that, another disciple pipes up, Philip.
Right.
And Philip wants proof. He says, "Lord, show us the Father and that will be enough for us." Which, fair play to Philip, if you're claiming to be the exclusive bridge.
You'd want to see the other side. It's a request for empirical evidence. He wants a vision.
A burning bush moment.
Yes, but look at the reaction he gets. The text depicts Jesus as almost hurt or surprised. He says, don't you know me, Philip? Even after I have been among you such a long time?
This is where it gets really interesting to me. The reasoning he gives is just mind-bending.
It is. He says, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father.
This is the core argument of what's called mutual indwelling that permeates the whole speech. He's arguing that there is no distinction in character or presence between him and the Father.
So he says, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me.
Right. He essentially tells Philip, you're looking for God out there, but the words I speak and the works I do are the Father living in me doing the work.
So if you're looking at him, you're looking at the Father.
According to the text, yes. The separation Philip imagines just doesn't exist. And then he pivots from this high-level theology to a very practical, almost shocking promise.
About power.
About power. He tells them that whoever believes in him will do the works he's been doing.
Not just the same works, though. The text says, and they will do even greater things than these.
I know.
That stopped me in my tracks. He's leaving, but he's predicting that his followers are going to outperform him. How does that even work? It does seem paradoxical, doesn't it? But look at the reason he gives. Because I am going to the Father. The logic seems to be that his departure actually unlocks this potential for them.
So he's not retiring. He's taking up a new position where he can facilitate their work.
That seems to be it. And he connects this directly to prayer. He says, you may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it.
That's a bold blank check. Ask anything.
It is.
But there is a condition attached to all of this, isn't there? We have to talk about how this text defines love, because it's not just warm fuzzies.
No, it is strictly operational. The text says, if you love me, keep my commands.
Oof. Short, sweet, and demanding.
It reframes love from an emotion to an action, specifically obedience. In the context of this speech, you can't say I love you and then ignore what he says.
It's a contradiction.
It is, but he knows they can't do this alone. Remember, he's leaving. So he introduces a new character to the narrative.
The advocate.
The advocate, also called the Spirit of Truth. And the description here is really interesting. The text says, the Father will send him to be with you forever.
So Jesus was temporary in a physical sense, but this advocate is permanent.
Exactly. But it's a secret presence, right? He says the world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him.
But the disciples know him. He says because he lives with them and will be in them.
That preposition shift is crucial. With you implies proximity, but in you implies internal transformation.
It's a hardware upgrade.
It is, and this leads to that deeply emotional assurance. I will not leave you as orphans, I will come to you. He's addressing that fear of abandonment.
There's another interruption here that I think is important. We had Thomas, we had Philip, and now we have Judas.
But the text is very careful to specify.
Not Judas Iscariot.
Yes, very important distinction. The text wants to ensure we aren't confusing him with the betrayer.
So this Judas asks a question about this secrecy. He asks, why do you intend to show yourself to us and not to the world?
It's a marketing question.
Totally. If you're the savior, why not appear on the biggest stage possible? Why keep it to this small group?
And the answer goes right back to that definition of love. Jesus replies that showing himself is reserved for those who love and obey him.
Right. He says, if anyone loves him, my Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them.
It's domestic language. The revelation isn't a public spectacle. It's a private making of a home inside the believer.
So the world can't see it because they don't have that love, that obedience.
They simply can't perceive this reality.
Right.
And to illustrate how this whole relationship works, the speech shifts into its biggest, most elaborate metaphor.
The vine.
The vine.
I love a good visual. He says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener.
This is a hierarchy of production. You have the gardener, the Father, who manages everything.
Yeah.
You have the vine, Jesus, who is the source of life. And then you have the branches,
The disciples.
them. And the mechanics of this metaphor are ruthless.
Yeah, let's talk about the gardening techniques here, because the gardener seems pretty aggressive with the shears.
There are two actions described. First, for the branches that bear no fruit, he cuts them off.
Removed entirely, which implies that just being attached isn't enough if you aren't producing.
Exactly. Being near the vine isn't the same as drawing life from it to create something. But then there's the second group, the branches that do bear fruit.
What happens to them?
The text says he prunes them.
So if you're failing, you get cut. If you're succeeding, you get cut.
In a way, yes. But the purpose is different. He prunes the fruitful branch so that it will be even more fruitful. It's a refining process.
So the pain isn't always a punishment.
Here, it's presented as preparation for greater output. It's about clearing away the dead weight so the energy goes to the fruit.
And the dependency here is total. He says, no branch can bear fruit by itself. Apart from me, you can do nothing.
Nothing. Zero. The text is so emphatic. It's not a partnership of equals. The branch has no life source of its own. Its only job is to remain. That word comes up over and over.
And the stakes for not remaining are high. We mentioned the fire earlier.
We did. The text says, if you don't remain, you wither. And then such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. It's a stark warning amidst all the comfort.
And the goal of this whole system, vine, gardener, branches, is to bear much fruit. That's what brings glory to the Father.
Right.
So after laying out this intense metaphor where the disciples are just branches, totally dependent, he suddenly flips the script on their status. This might be my favorite part of the text.
It's a huge shift.
He says, I no longer call you servants. Instead, I have called you friends.
It's a promotion. But look at the reasoning. It's based on information access. He says, a servant does not know his master's business.
A servant just does what they're told. They don't get the why.
Right. But he calls them friends because everything that I learned from my father, I have made known to you. He's brought them into the inner circle. They know the strategy now.
They aren't just labor, they are insiders.
Precisely. They have been given the full download. But again, he redefines what friendship means in this context. It's not just, hanging out.
Yeah.
He sets the ultimate standard to lay down one's life for one's friends.
He's foreshadowing his own death here, right?
It certainly seems that way. He's modeling the behavior he expects. And he reminds them of the power dynamic one last time. He says, you did not choose me, but I chose you.
That's an ego check. You didn't sign up for this. You were grafted.
Drafted and appointed. Appointed to bear fruit that will last. It all comes back to that fruit.
Okay, so we have this intimate moment. They are friends. They're chosen. They are connected to the vine. It sounds great. And then the mood just drops. Hard.
The friction with the world.
Yeah. He goes from I love you to the world is going to hate you.
Yeah.
That's quite the pivot.
If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. He's managing their expectations. He's essentially saying, don't take it personally. It's about me.
And what's the logic for this hatred? Why does the world care?
It's about belonging. The text says, if you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. But because he chose them out of the world, they are now alien to it.
So since the world hated the master, they will naturally hate the servants.
He says, they will treat you this way because of my name. It's guilt by association. And it's also an issue of ignorance. He states, for they do not know the one who sent me.
But then he makes this very serious, almost legalistic argument about their guilt.
He does.
He claims that if he hadn't come and spoken to them or done these miraculous works, they wouldn't be guilty of sin.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Basically, I showed up, I proved who I was, so now you have no excuse. His presence stripped away the plea of ignorance.
He says, now they have seen, and yet they have hated both me and my Father.
And he interprets this hatred not as a failure of his mission, but as a fulfillment of their own law.
Right. They hated me without reason.
It really creates this us versus them mentality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like you are with the vine, or you are with the world. There is no middle ground in this text.
That's a fair assessment. The text demands a choice. You remain in the vine, endure the pruning, and face the hatred of the world. Or you wither and burn.
It's binary. You can't be a branch and be part of the world at the same time, according to this speech.
But he ends on a promise of help. He brings it back to that advocate we talked about earlier.
Yes. When the advocate comes, he will testify about me. So the Spirit pleads his case, but then he turns to the disciples and says,
And you also must testify.
for you have been with me from the beginning.
So the mission is to talk, to be witnesses.
Yes, to bear witness to what they have seen and heard, even when the world is hostile.
So let's try to pull this all together. What does this all mean? We have a speech that is simultaneously incredibly comforting. Peace I leave with you, and terrified. The world will hate you.
That tension is the defining feature of the text. It offers radical peace, but not a peaceful circumstance. It promises an internal calm while predicting external persecution.
It elevates the listeners from servants to friends, but demands an obedience that is absolute.
It's not a speech for the casual listener, is it? It's for people who are all in. It's for the abiders, to use the metaphor. It's for those who stay attached.
And that brings us to the end of the deep dive on this farewell discourse. It's a lot to process. Vines, branches, advocates, and a prepared place in a Father's house.
Indeed. It forces you to look at where your life is actually coming from.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. We talked about the gardener and the pruning. The text explicitly says that the branch that bears fruit is pruned, cut back, so that it will be even more fruitful.
It's the paradox of growth through reduction.
Exactly. So here is the question. In a world that constantly tells us that success looks like uninhibited expansion, more, bigger, fatter, what does it mean if true success or bearing fruit in this philosophy actually requires painful cutting back? What if the things you feel you are losing are actually the evidence that you are functioning exactly as intended?
That's a great question.
Think about that. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.